Hello, my name is Sherri Jacobs, and today we are going to explore the topic of blind contour drawing. This is a technique in drawing and learning how to draw and really learning how to see that many art schools, many art classes teach, but surprisingly, there's not a lot of information on it. So there's multi-goals in today's workshop, and our first goal is simply just learning the technique. Our second goal is exploring our relationship to perfection. And our third goal is really just finding our authentic line, which in turn helps us really find our authentic self. So just to clarify what I mean by blind contour drawing, here's a sample. This is a portrait of my daughter. And the idea of a blind contour drawing is a very rapid image that you're creating by looking at the object or the subject and not the paper. These are pretty fast. This took about maybe a minute. And I'm going to walk you through how to do it and walk you through lowering the threshold for perfection. I'll just hold up a few more of these. This was a portrait that was done of me. Here's my cat. Here's a cool picture of my couch. And I like to go back in and paint them, and I'll give an explanation for that in a few minutes. This is a self-portrait I made. Here's a teacup and saucer that I made, and then I went back in and added some squiggles in, and then went back in and painted it. This was 9 really fast images of the same object I was drawing, which was this awesome purple couch that I have with my cat and a yellow pillow. Each one, they're sort of messy, but what I love and what many people love about blind contour drawing is the authenticity of the line is something we really often can't get to when we're looking at something that we're drawing. Each time we look at our page as we're drawing something, the I can't, it looks terrible, this is terrible, often creeps up, and we often lose that ability to have the natural, authentic line that we're aiming for in this type of art. So, I've got some more show and tells here. Here's another self-portrait I made. My idea of adding paint at the end, or markers, or filling in the blank spaces is the discomfort and almost like out of control feeling that comes from not knowing how this image is going to turn out. The opposite end of the spectrum of that is taking the time afterwards to color in various spaces. And I think it adds a really cool dynamic sense and nature to these images. So I'm going to turn my camera around and we are going to jump right in. Actually, no, take that back. I want to introduce you to a very famous artist before we do that. This is a book that one of my friends wrote, an art therapist that has unfortunately passed away, named Eva Scarrett Baptist. And she worked with this wonderful, amazing artist named Elizabeth Grandma Layton. I live in Kansas, so this lady, Elizabeth Layton, was from Kansas, and Elizabeth Layton was famous for a series of 1,200 works of art that she made, mostly self-portraits and portraits of her husband. And she learned this blind contour drawing process. Fortunately, these are black and white, but I'll just pull some of these out for you. And then she would go back in after she created the initial image, and she would fill in details of her warts and her wrinkles, and she was able to sort of work through just some of the bigger things she was dealing with in her life. Her experience was that she suffered from this debilitating depression for much of her life, and she reported after 6 months of engaging in this type of art, she cured herself of depression. And this was many decades ago. We didn't have the technology to measure can blind contour drawing cure depression? And we still don't have enough technology to truly make that jump, but for this particular person, it did work. But in the meantime, since this book was written, there is a lot of neuroscience research on the effectiveness and measuring through fMRI technology in real time the impact of seeing and drawing and how that can impact neural growth in our brain. It turns out that when we are engaged in seeing and drawing, we are connecting the occipital lobe and the parietal lobe and creating new neural networks. So that is a good thing. And I also just want to talk about the interesting piece of information about a line, because when you look at a person or an object, there aren't actually lines around it. It's just a matter of shading and shadows. But our eyes and our very efficient brains jump to conclusions so that if we see a simple image, a line-drawn image, we know that that image represents something else. And what we know is even primates can do this and recognize a simple drawn line image that represents something as the thing itself. When they've done brain imaging studies on people looking at a photograph of something versus people looking at a line-drawn image of something, what they found was the neural networks light up almost the same. And so this is very interesting because line drawing is sort of inherent to Homo sapiens. We know that cave drawings, simple line drawings date back, I think the oldest one that's been discovered is maybe 30,000 years old. We know that early humans were even engaged in this type of activity in the form of Neanderthal art. We know that all written language started out as a pictorial language, written language, and those pictorial images eventually became letters of various alphabets. And so as we drift into an era of a super technology time, really we're using our hands and our fingers less and less. We're probably losing the dexterity that we might have had at one time drawing or even writing. I think we sometimes get embarrassed almost of our writing as much as we do of our drawing. Most people say, I can't draw. I never went to art school, I can't draw, so I'm not going to try because when I draw, it looks simple or it doesn't look like what it is that I'm drawing. It turns out that drawing, meaning creating an exact representation of the thing you're looking at, is not a talent, it's actually a skill that requires practice. There's lots of techniques on learning perspective, on learning shading, and as a person learns those details and puts them together, that's what makes a good artist or a person that's able to look at something and draw it. But one of the jumping in points is this thing called blind contour drawing. And so I'm going to pause my video and turn my camera around and get us set up and we'll jump right in. Okay? Okay, hello again. So I have kind of a strange little setup here. I've got a pen, not a pencil, because we don't want to be able to erase. And I'm propping up a mirror and I'm going to look at myself, but I wanted to arrange it so you could see the mirror, my pen, the paper, and check me so you can see that I'm not cheating. And I'm going to walk through how to do a blind contour drawing. And again, the goal is that we're looking at the subject or the object and not the paper. So you can look at my eyes and say I'm looking at the mirror and not my paper. And I'm going to start at the top of my head. And I'm going to use my eyes to simply follow whatever part of my thing I'm drawing. So I went down to my hairline. One trick is to not lift your pen while you're drawing. So I'm trying to draw my ear. I'm gonna go in and do my bangs. Then I'm gonna end up on the other side of my head. I'm gonna grab my other ear. I'm gonna go back down and do my hair. And sometimes when we do these, our eyeballs might end up far off of where our head is. That's okay. I'm gonna come back and do my lips, some teeth, my lower lips, and then I'm not going to lift my pencil. I'm going to come back up and find my nostrils, find my nose. I think I'll do the other edge of my nose, and I'm going to come back and find the contours of my glasses. I think while I'm over on this part of my glasses, I'll do my eyebrows. I'm going to come back in and look at my eye. I'm going a little fast. As you get better, you might decide to go slower. I come over here and do the other side of my glasses. I don't think I did those yet. I'm gonna do an eyebrow. I'm gonna come back in and look at the contours of my eyes, my iris, my pupil, and all right, so this is my version of me. Doesn't look exactly like me. And I've been doing this for a while, so I even got my eyeballs on my face. And what I love about this is if I would have tried to draw myself, I might not have been able to capture just sort of the smoothness and the casualness. Some people might call this art ugly, but there's something wonderful about it because it's not perfect. I'm gonna try one more. I'm gonna hold my phone up. I've got this little very cool chair here. That's a representative of a life-size chair I have over here in my office that grumpy teenagers often sit in when they come into my art therapy practice. But I'm gonna just spend a minute, if I can get this thing back together, doing one more quick image of this awesome chair. If I can get it back on, let's see, I'll try one more time, trying to do it one-handed. Okay, I'm gonna pause that. So we'll just end at that.